grandmother's pumpkin pie recipe, and it was really good. And so she wanted to enter the contest, and then the morning that you had to make the pie, she woke up and she was sick, and she called, she said, I'm so sick. She said, I just can't even get out of the bed. I've got this vertigo. And I said, don't worry, I'll make the pumpkin pie. How hard can it be to make a pumpkin pie? Little did I know. Well, it just wore me out. It took me all day long to make that pumpkin pie. First of all, I only use my oven at Christmas to make some Christmas cookies, you know. So I store my Christmas decorations in the oven when it's not Christmas. And so I had to get all those decorations out of the oven, and then I had to get ready to make the pie. Well, I had my flour and my lard to make the crust, but I did not have a drop of milk in the house. So I had to go out and milk the goat to get some milk to make the pie. Well, this goat, I haven't had her very long, and she's really, really an ornery old goat, and she does not like to be milked. So I had to go and catch her, and I put a rope around her neck, and then I brought her up to tie her to the gate so that I could milk her. Well, my gate, I have this new hired hand, and he's a city boy. And he don't really know very much about fixing things on the farm. In fact, he doesn't know much about fixing anything. Instead of fixing it, he fixes it so that it looks fixed, but it's not really fixed, you know. So he had fixed this gate to look fixed. And so when I saw it, I thought it was fixed, and I tied the goat to the gate. Well, after I had gotten about a quart of milk, she just went berserk. The goat just went berserk, and she started pulling and bucking and jumping, and she pulled that gate down, tore it all to pieces, and she ran off. So I had to go catch her and take the rope off of her. Well, when I got the rope off of her and got back up there where the gate was laying on the ground, I realized that the horses had seen that the gate was down, and so the horses got out and they ran off out in the back pasture. So I had to get a halter and a bag of feed, and I had to go out and catch the horses and bring them all the way back. I don't know why it is that horses always want to be somewhere else. Never where they are. But anyway, I got the horses back. I took my milk and I went inside. Well, by then, I was pretty tired and I wanted to sit down a few minutes. And anyway, it was about lunchtime, so I fixed me a little bite of lunch. I ate my lunch. After lunch, then I put my milk in, I mixed up my crust, and I rolled it out, and I put it in the pan. Well, I wanted for the filling, I wanted my eggs to be real extra fresh. And I knew that my hens lay around about lunchtime, so I went out in the hen house to get some eggs to make my filling of my pie. When I got out there, I had told my hired man to work on that hen house so that the snakes couldn't get in. Well, he had done the same thing he did with the gate. He had made it look like it was fixed, but it really wasn't fixed. When I got in there was a big old chicken snake in there. So I had to go find the hoe so I could kill the snake. Now, that's usually what we use to kill snakes. Some people use a hatchet and some people use an axe, but I really can't lift a hatchet or an axe very well. So some people shoot them with a gun, but I can't shoot anything. I'm liable to shoot my foot off. So I go and got the hoe, and I have a good sharp hoe, and I kill the snake. Then I gathered up the eggs, and I went back in the house. I put the eggs in the bowl, put some sugar in there. I looked at the recipe, and it called for nutmeg. Well, I don't know what kind of nut nutmeg is, but we didn't have any in Ship's Bend. And so I went out and picked up some walnuts and cracked them, and I thought, well, I'll just put those in there. Nobody will ever know the difference. So I put the walnuts in the filling. And then I looked at the recipe again, and it said allspice. And I thought, well, that seems really strange. But I wanted to go right by the recipe and do what it said there. So I opened up the cabinet and I got all the spices out that I had in my kitchen. And I put a little bit of each one of them in there. I had some garlic, some salt, and some pepper. And then I had a whole big old bottle of paprika. Now, you know, it's a funny thing about paprika. You buy a big old bottle of paprika, and the only thing in the world you ever use it for is to sprinkle a little bit on top of your deviled eggs. Well, at that rate, that big old bottle of paprika will last you your whole life, and then you can hand it down in your will to somebody. So I put a whole bunch of the paprika in there. Well, when I got that done, then I had to go out in the yard garden, you know, and get my pumpkin. So I went out in the pumpkin patch, and I looked, and you know, there was not a pumpkin left. The pigs had gotten in there and eat every one of those pumpkins up. That hired man had not fixed that gate either. So I looked around, I thought, okay, what am I gonna do? I got to have something to go in this pie. And so I looked and there was a big old squash over there. So I thought, I'll use that squash. Nobody will ever know the difference. So I went and got the squash and I took it in and I steamed it a little bit and then I mashed it all up. I put it in my pumpkin pie batter. And I stirred it all up and then I put my secret ingredient in. We call it additive. And a lot of people where I come from make this additive, but the best additive is made by a fella up the holler from me. And so I keep a big bottle in there, and I use it for a lot of things. Just anything you put it in, it makes it better, I'm telling you. And I even put a little bit in my coffee every morning. Sometimes I have 4 or 5 cups of coffee before I get going real good. And then at night, I put a little additive in my milk that I drink before I go to bed. It makes me sleep so good, you just don't know. So anyway, I poured some additive in there, mixed it all up, put it in the pans. Well, now, some people like meringue on top of their pie, so I was going to make a meringue. I don't like meringue. In fact, I don't really like pumpkin pie either. But I don't like meringue because I think it looks like calf slobber. But, you know, it does make a pie look like it's finished. So I whipped up my egg whites and I put some sugar in them. And then I put a little additive in there because I thought that might improve it. And I got it all whipped up and I put it on the pie. And then I put the pie in the oven and I started to bake it. Well, by now it was getting late in the afternoon. Well, right before that pie was ready to come out of the oven, here comes this big old Chrysler down the driveway. And it was the pumpkin pie judge come to try my pumpkin pie, you know, to judge for the contest. And so he gets out of his big old Chrysler and comes in and I said, now, Mr. Pumpkin Pie Judge, my pie has just come out of the oven, so it's really hot. And I don't think you need to taste it yet, so let me get you something to drink, and we'll just sit out here on the porch and swing, and we'll drink a little bit, and then the pumpkin pie will get cool, and we can try the pumpkin pie. So I fixed him up some iced tea, and I put a little of the additive in it. And we sat out there, and we swung, and I guess judging pumpkin pies is thirsty work. Because he drank about 4 or 5 glasses of that iced tea with the additive in it. Well, finally, I said, okay, I think the pie is ready now for you to taste. And so I cut him a little slab. He ate it, and he said, boy, this is the best pumpkin pie I've ever had. And I said, well, good. And so he got ready to go, and he says, I think I'll have one more little glass of this iced tea before I go. And so I fixed him one, and he drank a little bit more. He got in his Chrysler, and he backed right over my gate post. And then he drove into the ditch on one side, he drove into the ditch on the other side. But I reckon he must have got back to New York, because I got a call a few days later that said I had won the National Pumpkin Pie Contest. And that's why I'm here. But you know, I don't think I'm ever going to make another pumpkin pie.
That's Daisy Stem.
It's just too much work.
What more could be said, America?
You're listening to WCHT Radio Network, New York.